Welcome back to The Private Record. This story blew my mind. I'm not going to say much about it, but our guest, Brandon, he was going on a weekend trip with one of his buddies from Oklahoma to Arkansas to meet him. And how do I not give a lot of details away? He was robbed and left for dead, and he didn't die. And the story that he has to tell from having not died is incredible. It truly, actually, almost made me cry. It really snuck up on me. I knew the story was going to be crazy because a robbery story is crazy. Being left for dead is also crazy. But there's an emotional component that I was absolutely not expecting that, I don't know, snuck up on me. Might sneak up on you. Beware. Keep the Kleenex close. But yeah, Brandon, thank you so much. I think you guys are really going to like this guest. He's very clearly just a very sweet, genuine, honest, and earnest person. And can't thank him enough for being on the show. Brandon, thank you. He said he's never told this story really to anybody before, besides, close friends and family. And I don't know, it's just all around it felt pretty profound. So thanks again, Brandon. If you want to be a guest on the show, go to theprivaterecord.com and submit yourself as a potential guest. Follow us on all socials, Instagram, TikTok, at The Private Record. We're also on YouTube at The Private Record, our very own channel. Subscribe to that. Like this video. Comment on this video. Tell us what you think about Brandon and his absolutely crazy story, how it made you feel, what you think about it. And, of course, share this with your friends. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you very much. Enjoy the show. I'll see you again soon. Brandon, welcome to The Private Record. We're very happy to have you. I know a little bit about this story, but before we dive in, why don't you just give us like the brief headline version, and then we can jump right in.
So I was out in Oklahoma for that point in my life, not for too long, but I want to visit a buddy in Arkansas. And on my way to go visit him for a fishing trip up in northern Arkansas, town that I stopped in, it was Fayetteville. Went out that night, and towards the end of the evening went to an ATM, and there's more to it, I guess. But basically, I was robbed that night, and beaten, and whole lots of things.
Yeah.
But ended up going, a couple of years and waited for trial and all that stuff. But I mean, I kind of left a lot out there. But I was in a coma for a couple of days, and I had a tracheotomy. My jaw was wired. The jaw was wired shut for like 9 months, and there was there was a period of time where it was unknown, whether I would make it back, and if I did make it back, if I was going to be all the way there or not. So there was uncertainty for family and friends and that kind of thing,
Yeah. Well, let's start at the beginning then. Let's start at the beginning, and we'll get into all that in deeper detail. But why don't you start wherever you want to start, and we'll go from there.
Okay, cool. So I'm in Edmond, Oklahoma at the time, just outside of Oklahoma City. I'd only been there for a few weeks. Actually, my parents lived there at the time. They had been out there for a couple of years. And, I had been out there with them for a couple of weeks and was working at a golf course out there. And I had a buddy who I went to high school with down in Southern California, and he had been in college for a bit. And we were going to go up to the White River. Since I was out in Oklahoma, we hadn't seen each other in a bit. So after like 2 weeks of working this job, I went on a weekend trip and decided to make a halfway stop because it was about a 6-hour drive or so. And left that evening, got to Fayetteville, decided to stay there for a couple of reasons. It was a college town, university is there, and it's, a bit more going on. And this is kind of key in the story. And being perfectly honest, this is part of the story that for at least a couple of years, like only close family and, real close friends knew this aspect for a little bit. And yeah, that was on me and for not always including it in the beginning, but there's reasons behind it, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're going fishing. I lived in Oregon, Southern California my whole life, West Coast, and I wanted to have some weed for that said trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been in Oklahoma for a bit, and it's especially back then. I don't even think there was medical in
Yeah.
most of those states out there, so hadn't had any. But we're going to be camping for a whole weekend and
Yeah.
fishing. It was something I thought, hey, if I can, stumble by some at a bar in this college town, then I'll get some.
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, I would have done the exact same thing. I'll just say that
Yeah.
much, but keep going. Yeah.
All right. And that being said, growing up, a good chunk of my life, through high school and everything was even before the legalization in California and stuff. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't uncommon to go to Huntington or wherever for the weekend and just talk to somebody on the boardwalk or the pier and be like, hey, you got to hook up. And that's just a kind of a normal thing.
Totally.
So I never was worried about anything like that. So either way, so I wanted to get some weed, and I go out that night after getting a hotel and stuff, and going up and down. There's an area there called Dixon Street, and it's kind of the downtown, college and or tourists. I mean, I don't know, too many people vacation in Arkansas, but either way, it's a cool little area, real artsy, and not a place I feel like you would expect to see. It's a cool little spot down there. At least I did. But I'm going down to different bars, and one thing that was kind of a theme in each of the bars when I would talk to somebody, usually the bartender, like everyone would be like, oh, either my guy doesn't have any or he's out of town, or they would end it by saying like, there's this bar down at the bottom, and I forget the name of the bar, but everyone kind of would point to that one, like, oh, that's going to be your best chance. That's going to be your best chance. So I went out originally, I think it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock. Had a couple beers throughout the first 2 or 3 bars I went to, and I finally get down to that one, and it's creeping up on, 11 o'clock, I think, at that time. And I'm sitting in that last bar talking with the bartender, and at each one of these bars, too. Sorry, I'm backtracking.
No, it's all right.
At each one of these bars, at that time of my life, which was 2017, I guess I should have been a little more detailed with dates. It was 2017, so I was 25 years old. And I was, at that point in my life, I was still, I'd drink, not heavily by any means, but I would drink if in that situation, I'm going around having drinks. I wasn't, worried about not having drinks or whatever. I guess what I'm trying to say is, it wasn't a thing. But either way, I was having some drinks, and I get down to the last one, and I'm sitting there at the bar talking with the people, and a girl kind of comes up and sits next to me, and she had heard what I was saying. And she goes, hey, I can help you out, And I was like, all right, sweet. This is perfect. Let me make some calls, she said. And she makes a couple phone calls and comes back, sits next to me, and he says, hey, I got to wait for a call back, but, I think my guy will help you out. And I was like, all right, her and I talked for probably like 20, 30 minutes or so. She was nice, she was sweet. And I remember at a point in time, she had asked what I did for work and whatnot. I responded with the same question. And this was one of the things that always stuck with me was she was like, you're not, you're too nice of a guy to, not to tell me what you work about, but basically she was saying, she said, you're too nice of a guy to be into my kind of work. Yeah, that was it. Be into my kind of work, right?
Okay.
So at that point, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I wasn't thinking about it. But guy ends up coming in a little bit later. She had come to me and said, hey, it was going to be $40 for an eighth. And I personally, to my surprise, I was like, wow, I thought it was going to be more. Just because
that's pretty cheap.
That was kind of like California prices even then.
Yeah.
So I told him I'll get a quarter. I'll get $80, and get a quarter. So she's like, all right. She told him. He comes down. Guy walks in the bar. He's got his hood on and stuff, but like didn't seem too shady in my opinion. It was just another guy who liked to wear his hood inside. But
Yeah.
he came in. There was not an ATM in the bar that we were in, so he said he knew there was an ATM in a bar just over across the street. So I say, bye to her, whatever. She says bye to, gets in a car. I remember her walking down the street, and this all comes back like with the court stuff. It'll all come up. But I had said, told her thanks and to have a good night or to be safe or something along those lines. Sorry, I lose my train of thought.
No, you're good. Go, take your time.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course.
I feel like I'm speeding
through it. No, you're good. No, you're good. You're doing good.
And I was making a point earlier and I trailed off, but I guess that point was that I had met people along the ways throughout the night when I was going to these bars and like had drinks with people and, met people and stuff. And that's kind of the thing I left out. But we decide to cross the street, and we go over to this other bar and it's just a few people in there because it's almost midnight now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an ATM right up where the bouncer sits. And me and this guy who, showed up with the weed, I'm sorry, I'm not giving names and shit for some reason.
No, that's fine. You don't need to give names. I got you. I'm following everything you're saying. Totally clear. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right on. So me and this guy walk to the ATM. Bouncer's there. He sees us, doesn't think anything of it, obviously. But I take out $80, and then him and I walk outside. And then across the street, there's a parking lot, right? There's restaurants, but they're all closed. Just a couple, and then there's this long parking lot. And it doesn't have like a back exit. It just all parking in the back, and then you can there's a video. I don't know if it's worth it to you guys or not, but there's a YouTube video from the news in Fayetteville when it all happened. And it shows the parking lot and the angle and everything, and it kind of helps with descriptions and stuff about the story.
Well, after we do this, just send us a link. We'll make sure we include it. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So it's basically it's a parking lot that is for the buildings around it, but it's just parking and it doesn't really have a back exit, so everyone's got to come out that front part.
Right. Okay.
Like to where the businesses are, and then there's a gate right there at that front part that goes to a walking path that people use like to and from, and like the colleges area. But we go to that parking lot, and like it's dark, right? Because it's nighttime. It's a dark kind of parking lot. There's not really street lights in that spot either. And in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, we are in Arkansas. We're doing, dealing a quarter of weed here, so it makes sense. We're going to a dark parking lot.
Totally, yeah.
Nothing is going through my mind except for get this weed, get back to my hotel, and drive to that river, do some fishing, and just enjoy the trip. But we get to almost back of the parking lot, and there's a black truck that was parked there. Just must just be going to be there overnight. And he had mentioned, he's like, hey, let's get it, we'll go back around that truck, pass it off, and we'll go our separate ways. So we start walking towards the truck, and I'm a little bit ahead of him to start going around the truck. I don't know how many for sure, but from pictures and stuff, I guess, just a few steps around the truck. And before I turned around, he had about a 4-pound chunk of cement in his hand, and he just whacked me right over the back of the head with it. It's kind of like side back, and that fractured my skull, and it was whatever they call brain was bleeding from my skull. So I was out at that initial. I'm unconscious, and right then and there, we could taken the $80, got the hell out of there. But he took his heel and he stomped my face with his heel like 10, 15 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, he did this for $80?
Yeah, $80.
Oh my fucking God.
Is all all I got out of it. I mean, they took my wallet and
Right.
yeah, that was it. I think just my phone too. But I mean, yeah, $80 was that was the
That
that
was
was
the
the
big
treasure.
prize for what
That was the
for what all
treasure.
this
Yeah,
was. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Wow.
So
Jesus
he
Christ.
does all the stomps and stuff, which in court and everything, like it was determined that he was trying to. Personally, this is everyone's. It's just up to anyone's opinion. But in my opinion, with all that being the case, like I think he thought he had killed me.
Right. Right. Right.
So he does after he stomps and does all that, and I mean, there's little parts of it that could be missing even to this day. But the next thing that happens that I for sure know about, because at that point I'm down for the count, and
Yeah.
so at that, don't know how much long how long he was there doing whatever he was doing after he had done that before. The girl who I met in the bar earlier that hooked me up with the weed pulls up in her car, right? Well, she rolls up and sees him in the situation, and he's leaning over me, right? He's leaning over me, getting everything out of my pockets. And when he does that, unbeknownst to him, she took a picture of him, right? And this will come back,
Whoa.
obviously. No, I'm sorry. My bad.
No, I was just gonna say that seems. This is interesting, and I don't want you to give me the details yet because it seems like
Yeah.
part of the story to fill it in later. But that could go a number of ways. Her taking a picture could mean a number of things, but
Yeah.
save that for later. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So she snaps a picture. He hops in, and they take off. And this period of time, I only know from what we learned from what the detectives and everybody figured out, because no one was around. But so I'm back there behind the truck in that parking lot I told you about, and I'd say it's about 60 yard, maybe 60 yards deep, 50 yards deep, the parking lot where the gate is before you get to that walkway. So I think it was almost 4 a.m., sometime between 3 and 4 a.m. Well, I don't know how it happened, honestly, but I had gotten about 10 feet away from that gate in that opening.
Oh,
and
so you were moving then. So you don't remember any of this, obviously, but you
so
were struggling to some degree to get back to somewhere where someone might be able to help you or find you or whatever the fuck. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
You're good.
So I don't know if I can tell it the best there, but I guess I should have said that happened at around midnight. I think a little after, like midnight to 12:30 a.m. And around 3:30 to 4 a.m. there was a young guy. I think he was 20 to 21 or something like that at the time. I think early college, I think, or I mean in college, and he was staying at a friend's house, and they had been drinking, and it 4 a.m. rolls around, and he doesn't want to stay the night. He decides he's going to walk home, crash at his place. Well, he walks up and he's going through that path to get back to his house, and he starts to see me as he's however far away from me. And his initial thought is like I was a homeless person sleeping.
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
And he's walking, and as he gets closer, he realizes there's blood, a pool of blood that the person was laying in, and
right,
or that I was laying in, and he just sees that it's a person in there. He instantly calls 911 and everything, and I guess the reason I was explaining the distance and everything is that from that time to when it happened to when I was found right there by that gate, no one knows what happened, but there was blood, throughout the parking lot, as if like you had, assumed I had made my way to there in that period of time. But obviously have no recollection of it or anything.
Yeah.
So kid finds me, and he ends up testifying,
Right.
we'll
Right.
talk about the court stuff. But kid sees me, he's up next to me, calls the cops or ambulance and everything, and the EMT or the ambulance, I don't know, sound like a dumbass right now, but whoever's talking to the dispatch, I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
would be, they're asking him like, hey, do you know where the blood's coming from? Like, is he moving? Those kind of questions. And, he said like mostly from his head, and it could, it looks like other places though. And they asked if he had like a towel or if there was clothes laying around to try and, cover or to try and reduce the bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And he said like, cause in that picture, I think my shirt is off and like my pants were, kind of down a little when he was probably trying to get shit out of them or whatever.
Right.
So there was a shirt, and he said he like went to grab my shirt, and then when he went to like go closer to me, he said that I started to like crawl away from him, like I
Whoa.
was making noises and like struggling to get away from him every time he get close to me,
Yeah.
But this kid, man, he walked as I moved. He stayed next to me for 5 minutes, however long it took for them to get there. The whole time, as I like crawled around, bleeding and stuff, he just walked there with me the whole time and stayed there till the cops got there and everything. And then I obviously get brought to the hospital, and they got to try and identify me and whatnot. And that's tough to do because my face is
gone. And your wallet's gone, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Wallet's gone. Phone's gone. Face is tough to identify, I guess. But the thing is I have a tattoo on my back, and I did get arrested when I was 19, and that actually ended up being a big key to getting a hold of my parents. They actually weren't the first people to find out, which is kind of a weird little part to this whole story.
Yeah.
Because they actually connected the tattoo to a captain or a company, a charter fishing company that I used to work for.
Wow.
And they called them, and then I don't think, he said he didn't know because he didn't know my parents or anything like that. So they weren't able to connect through him. There was like 2 or 3 other people that were called before they were actually able to get to my parents. And so they find out I'm in the hospital. I end up with, I had to go into induced coma and get facial reconstruction. So I got like 8 plates in my face, and I guess I'll go over all the things I had when I woke up from the surgeries, because it was, I think, one 8-hour and one 10-hour surgery for everything. The surgeon, the guy who put me back together, he testified in the trial as well, and kind of how the best way I describe it is because of what he said in trial. The best way I describe it is he said it was like having a large puzzle, and every puzzle piece is broken into like 7 pieces, and then putting that back together. And that's, basically what it was like when I came in, to him.
Goodness gracious. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, those guys, man, I'm sure people push this point all over the place, but for people that make hundreds of thousands of dollars plus and actually deserve it, millions of dollars, and actually really, really deserve it,
Sure.
I mean, I'm a sports freak, I love the NFL, I love it all, but it's crazy to think that the contracts for someone who does that, compared to someone who's playing a game that we all played at some point in time.
For sure.
Not a shot at it. I got my timbers.
There you go.
But so yeah, he was I'm kind of a lifesaver.
It looks like he did a
He
pretty fucking good job. I gotta say.
well, a lot of people, anyone I've met since it's happened,
Hmm.
it's always like, oh, I never would have guessed. Like
Yeah,
that's what's weird. I never would have guessed, but obviously me being, looking through my eyes my whole life,
of
you know, I,
course.
I can still, to this day, like I've gotten used to it over the last 6 years or seven in August, or no, August was trial. It'll be 7 years, July of this year. So next month it'll be 7 years. But I guess I'll go over all the things. It was the surgery. Oh yeah, and this is kind of gross, but basically what he had to do for that surgery, and you might already know this, it wasn't something I ever thought about, but for that, he basically I got 80 staples over my from ear to ear, and like basically my face, your face is just laying on your chest, and it's like that shit. Like it took me a while. Sorry, I keep cursing. That took me a while to like be able to think about
Yep.
and not like just get so freaked out. I needed to sit down and
I
get
get.
woozy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Totally.
So the facial surgery and everything, and then I had my jaw was broken in a couple of. It was basically just severed, like in a couple. It was just hanging. Um, so that was wired shut, and then because that was wired shut, I had to have a feeding tube for the period of time that
Hmm.
was there. So I was in the hospital for a few weeks, almost a month before I think transferred to like a rehabilitation. And I was in there for a couple of weeks, but coma lasted between 2 and 3 days, and I started getting back going, and I actually recovered faster than I was not
It
supposed to,
it
but
sounds like that's a
no,
fast recovery considering what happened. Honestly, that a
yeah.
month in the hospital, a few weeks in rehab. That's
Mhm.
incredible, right? I mean, that sounds like a very fast recovery.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as recovery goes for like enough recovery to get to a house and be in the house while you mend for another
Sure.
how
Yeah.
many months.
Totally.
But yeah, enough
Yeah.
because what happens, which I'm sure you know of this, you get the insurance will cut you like, hey, you actually we're not going to pay for this anymore because you passed these tests
Right.
that say you're good to go. And there was a lot of cognitive stuff.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Right.
I had to like go through they had like what was like a grocery store setup, basically.
Hmm.
And I had to walk in, get groceries off of the shelf,
Mm. Wow.
put them on, like add it together and do my change, basically. It
Mm.
was like things like that, and
Interesting.
physical therapy as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I ended up getting out of that, but that was before I got my jaw unwired and
Uh huh.
before I got the tube out of me. My parents had been living in Edmond, Oklahoma, which, thank God that was only about 3 hours from
Right.
Fayetteville. So I got to drive to their house, or not me. They drove me to their place, and I spent the next 8 months
Yeah.
recovering there before I could, was cleared to start working and that kind of stuff. Um, uh, I forgot something there.
Oh, you're good. So now you're home, and then
Mhm.
how does it end up turning into the legal case? Like you're healing, you're in position to get back to work, you're finally on your feet, but like how is it turning
Mhm.
into a court case?
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, so the night that after it happened, well, I guess going back to the night that it happened,
Hmm.
it was about 3 days worth. I think I may have just come out of the coma and still, been way out of it. I mean, the amount of pain medications and seizure medications and all the stuff that I was on, and it was a long period of time. At least a year of taking, tons of prescriptions and
Yeah.
mainly a lot of pain medication that obviously has a
Yep.
negative effect after a period of time,
Yep.
and can be extremely negative depending on
Yep.
on the case and the person. But so that was all part of it. But they ended up getting arrested about 3 to 4 nights later. The two, the guy and the gal who were involved. What had happened is an anonymous caller called in, right? Sorry. An anonymous caller called in because they opened up a line, but there was, worry of retaliation and possible gang affiliation. So
Right.
Worried about it. But this gal, was close with both of them to a certain degree. I never saw this person again or heard from this person again. But sorry, I was trying to think because I did talk to a few people over the first few years, like via Facebook and stuff. Like I talked to a few of the witnesses and everything, but I was trying to think of the anonymous caller if we ever talked. But either way, they called in, and then the picture that the gal took was found once, they were arrested and got the warrants to look through their phones and stuff. So what happened is that night, the girl sent the picture to the guy's mom and was like, look what your fucking son did,
As in, look how shitty your son is, or look how proud you should be as a mom?
Look how dumb, like, look what he did. Like, what are we supposed to do?
Oh my God. What a fucking weird confluence of things to be happening all at once. Like, what the fuck is, people are so weird on top of everything else. Okay. Yeah.
And then she also sent it to a friend of theirs, is what we were told. A friend of theirs and his mom. So the mom actually, I think, responded back. Yeah, she responded back, is that blood? It's like, what do you...
That is blood. That is blood that comes out of a person when they are stomped like that. Yeah.
So she, the picture obviously was part of, evidence, later on.
And it was the guy in the picture too?
He was standing over me.
Oh my
getting
God.
Shit out of my pockets, and she snapped it while he wasn't looking.
What a fucking...
He didn't know that she took it originally.
I mean, that is some justice right there. He deserves every bit of that, but what a fucking moron for taking that picture. But good for you and good for the world, obviously. But that is a crazy thing to do, to take that and send it. Like, what a moron.
Which all that leads me to believe, that I don't think she knew that he was going to do what he did.
That was going to happen. Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I would agree with that assessment. Yeah.
Yeah, just because of how she took the picture, and we do get to court and she she does testify, and I'll go back and fill anything else, but she testifies one of the days in court, and they asked that specifically, like, why did you take the picture? Because basically the picture can be evidence, but like it has to be someone who was there when the picture was taken, had to be like, this is what this is a picture of, essentially. Like,
right. Sure.
So she, she did, on account of being able to, flip out and not be charged as a accomplice, which at the end of the day, I don't think she was an accomplice to that extent anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But she not justifying any of her actions. She's been in and out ever since. I mean, who knows what she thought, but sorry, I'm losing my thought again.
No, she was on the stand. She was testifying, and she was. What did she say? Did she say?
Oh, yeah. So they asked her, why did you take this picture? Exact words. She goes, just in case some shit like this happened. Like, I think she's just protecting herself.
Oh,
just in case some bullshit like this went down.
Wow, what a mind. The way people's minds work is so fucking interesting. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shit like this went down, and I guess, thank God she took the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was, which I didn't know this before, but, the cops knew her to a degree because she was like a locally known prostitute. And and she, you know, she was an interesting person, but I mean, she's had a couple different charges since. So they go in jail, and her mom or someone in her family, you know, was, I think, a doctor or something. They had money because their bond got posted at like it was 250,000, so it was going to be 25 grand each for them to get out on bail. And the girl got her bail covered, all 25 grand by, I want to say, a grandmother, right?
Okay.
The guy didn't have that kind of money. I mean, most people
don't.
You know, so that's a pretty good chunk to just be like, hey, here, you know, take this.
Yeah.
So he was in jail for about 6 months. You know, meanwhile, I'm laid up on my parents' couch, drinking my mom's whatever they made for dinner. She's putting with turkey broth and you know, blending it up, drinking it. So taking my meds through the feeding tube, and so he is in there for 6 months, and writes a letter. Christmas is coming up. This is a key detail, I guess, I left out. They had a 2-year-old baby girl together. These Jesus. Two. I think she was 20. He was 23 when it happened. These were their ages, and you know, they had a little girl. He actually had a daughter with another girl as well. So he writes a letter to the judge saying, you know, he has to be out so he can be working, so he can take care of his children. And, you know, this guy wasn't involved very much with his children on the outside world.
Yeah, but what the fuck is he talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing what I imagine a lot of people in his situation are
trying to get the fuck out of jail. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and obviously I'm pretty angry, you know, I'm an angry person. I hopped up on, you know, I'm out of it on all the painkillers and shit, but I'm usually just kind of angry when I get into my own thought at that point in time.
Sure, yeah. Of course.
Even with him in jail, it's like I'm just anticipating the trial, the hope I'm going to feel better. And, my face has been, you know, puffed out for months, you know, almost a year before all the swelling went down.
Wow.
So he's in there. She gets the letter, and you know, I was so mad at her at the time. But the judge, she happened to be, you know, and I'm not taking sides on any of this shit when it comes to politics, but she was a liberal judge in Arkansas, and I think, you know, she just wanted to be like, hey, you know, I am around and I exist. These, you know, we can do this, because she dropped his bail from 250,000 to 25.
So then he would have just had to pay $2.5 grand.
Yeah, $2,500. Yep.
Okay.
She lowered it from 250,000 to 25,000. So he got out the next day for $2,500. You know, it was this whole thing of, and I understand, like, I mean, I'm an advocate to a degree of, you know, people getting locked up and, you know, unjust things that happen to, I mean, everybody to a degree, but obviously, you know, unjust things that happen to minorities and that.
Yeah, but that's not what this was, though. This fucking guy did this because he wanted $80 and didn't give a fucking shit about whoever he had to crack their skull to get it. Yeah. I mean, exactly. You know, all theory, I know you are, but all theory goes out the window when there's a specific case right in front of you, you know? In theory, it's great to do X, Y, and Z for this population 100%. Or this kind of person or that kind of person or whatever the fuck. But, like, there was video evidence of what the guy did. The girl took a fucking photo of it. You're living evidence of what he did. Anyway, I know I'm preaching to the choir. I'm just saying that's not just angering to you. That is upsetting to me or anyone who would listen to your story, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. And that's never mind. I get what you're saying. It's a common. I haven't told the story to anybody. You know that.
Yeah.
Like, what in the hell is going on here?
Yeah, of course. But,
so she decides to lower it, and he gets out, and And I'm obviously pissed off that happened, because
Yeah.
instantly my mind was like, hey, uh, he ain't coming to court.
Right.
You know,
Right.
this guy, he just wants to run. Like,
Yeah.
who didn't, right? So I did a lot of looking into this stuff as far as like the legality and why this, the judge would make that choice and everything, outside of the reason I just was explaining about, like, hey, I'm going to let this guy out who hasn't been found guilty yet. I don't
Mhm.
want him. I'm going to be the one who releases him because he hasn't been found guilty. And uh, it says that if you're looking into low, it was all the shit I could read was talking about what judges have to look into when they decide they're going to lower a bail. And one of those things was whether or not they're a flight risk.
Mhm.
And the other was whether or not they're a danger to the general public. And he striked both those categories
Yeah.
100. So
I mean,
he
he's
actually,
obviously a danger. Like, there's no question about that,
yeah, he had a failure, and he had a failure to appear already on his,
Oh
on
my
his,
God. Are you fucking serious?
yeah, he had a failure to appear in,
What a
in an
joke,
assault,
dude.
uh,
I'm sorry to laugh. It's just it's laughably stupid.
oh,
Yeah. So
yeah.
then how long between then and the trial was it going to be, or was it like, what was the distance between that
Yeah.
moment
So,
and then, yeah, the date of the trial?
yeah. So, July 2017, it was just after the 4th, was when it happened. And then it was going to be, uh, would have been the summer 2018 was going to be trial.
Mhm.
So it would have been like, it was July 2018. So a little over a year from when it happened was the day of the trial. And
Okay.
I'm back in Oregon at the time. I fly out to Arkansas, uh, with all my immediate family, sisters, their kids, husbands, and all that. And actually had a couple buddies from high school fly out there as well. And
Mhm.
we're all out there the morning of the trial, and we're having breakfast. And before we start heading over to the courthouse, I get a phone call from the prosecutor saying that he fled and trial's not happening. After a year of waiting for whatever justice was going to be.
Jesus Christ. So
Uh,
when did they get this guy back into a courtroom?
so uh, this is part that you can look back on and laugh at. He fled on a white moped.
Dude, come the fuck on.
And
This
it even said it like in the thing, like suspect has fled town on a white moped.
What a fucking joke of a human being, dude. Like, don't even bother trying to escape if you're on a moped. Dude, it's better on foot. Try to fucking hitch a ride with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that
So,
is amazing. So they got him pretty quick, I'm assuming.
well, unfortunately, no, because the reports of it was like people had seen him,
Mm.
bystanders saw somebody like him leaving, on a white moped. Like they never got to him when he was on the moped wherever he went, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
he actually ends up being gone for about 5 months, almost
Whoa.
6 months.
Whoa, whoa,
He's
whoa.
nowhere to be seen, and I think maybe closer to 5. I'm trying to be as precise as I can, but even at this point, it's a while ago now. But
Yeah.
I it was about 5 months, and I remember because when I had moved back. I was working again, living in Southern California, near the area where I went to high school in Temecula, and I was staying there. I got a call at like 4 in the morning
Mm.
from the detective, and the detective in this case, it was she was awesome. It was actually her first case as lead detective was this one.
Mhm.
So when he got out and fled, like she was really determined to make this happen for obvious. She knew me and my family, and we got close with all the prosecutor and the whole team. There's really great people, but she was just real determined to make it happen. And she
Mhm.
called me at 4 a.m. and her and some other Fayetteville PD, along with the oh shoot, what do they call those guys? what's the, it's like what's the department that'll like track down people?
The Marshals?
Yeah, U.S. Marshal.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's on the tip of my tongue. So, along with the U.S. Marshals, they found him in Birmingham, Alabama, at this apartment complex, and she was like, "Hey, we fucking got him." Like, she was pumped, kicked that door in, and we got that son of a bitch. And
Oh yeah.
so they got him. Obviously, brought him back to Fayetteville, locked him up without bail,
Yep.
and another almost half a year rolls by, and we're up to now 2 years, like, 2 years almost to the week since it happened. We're back going to trial.
Okay.
So we get to trial, and we get to trial. Still got family with me there. A couple of my buddies that were able to come out. The last time it was just weren't able to come out. But trial ended up being about we went almost 5 days of trial, and then they had the verdict, and the following day did the sentencing. So it was only 7-8 days. I think we were out there, and so we get to trial, and one cool part, big part to it, I guess, is the prosecutor. She had grown up in Fayetteville, and her family owned the restaurant where the parking lot I was found in. So,
Jesus, what are the odds of that? Wow.
So I think to a degree she was, either chose or wanted to get this case. Maybe went to whoever, the DA or whoever, chooses that. And she was great. Being in that courtroom was it was like something a lot of things you can't quite expect.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But it was just it's just tough to explain. I guess it was like being in a movie to a degree. Like
I'm
you're
sure.
kind of like this fly on the wall. You're just watching something happen.
Yeah.
And it was really emotional. I had been an emotional 2 years in general, just being, pissed off and looking for something to feel, normal again. And we're at trial, and I'm trying to think of the biggest parts here. But like I said before, there was a lot of witnesses that I met on that evening, and that had got called up, and I get called up a couple days into it, and had to testify and got asked questions about the night and everything. The guy who did it, he's the defendant. He's in there the whole time, and his family, his mom and sister are there, sitting on the other side. So it was just a really emotional kind of situation, I guess.
I have a question. During this time, are you, 5 days, so many witnesses, all this shit, are you like at various times just thinking like, what is all this bullshit? Of course he did it. There's a fucking picture. Look what happened to me. This motherfucker did it. Everybody knows he did. Like, what is this theater? Like, is there any moment like that for you at all? Or is it just like...
Yeah, for sure. Because we get to opening statements, right? And our opening statement is pretty close to like what you were just saying. Like, hey, here you go. Like, what are we talking about?
What are we doing here? Yeah.
Yeah. And the defendant, on the other hand, or not the defendant, but his lawyers, they said that Mr. Blake and Mr. Green, got into it. Just a couple of guys who were too drunk out one night on Dixon Street, and Mr. Blake pulled a knife on
Oh my God.
and called him the N-word. So sorry, I just went and did the names anyway. But the defense said that I pulled a knife on him and called him the N-word, and that's what they were going to go with.
Wow.
And it was, it lasted maybe 24 hours. That by the next day they had abandoned that
Oh my
because
God.
the knife
Jeez.
didn't exist, and I went up and talked, and witnesses talked, and that's just not something that would have happened for all sorts of different
Yeah.
reasons. They wanted to try and use the card that gets pulled sometimes to see what it could do to help their client.
Sure.
And that got dropped pretty quick, and it turned into just, these two guys got into a fight, and, just so happens that this guy got the better of this guy. Like he just beat me up in a fight.
They were just framing it as a fight that you lost, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So uh, that was tough. That was tough at first from my perspective. Just like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
And then there's that part of starting to have like these doubts, not when it comes to that part of the story, but they the gal who I told you about, she had been a prostitute. She had all these ID cards or pictures of ID cards from customers and stuff, and they found, they had taken my stuff as well.
Right.
And there was just parts of the night that I didn't know was there something that I don't remember, like that was happening that night that, I just felt so uneasy about what happened because there were people saying other things happened. I felt like I had a pretty good idea of what happened until my lights went out.
Right.
So it was just uneasy, not knowing. And once, I think what I really needed all along was for those 12 people to be like, hey, dude, yes, this is what happened to you.
And so take us there then. So then how long does the jury deliberate for?
So jury, I think it was like it wasn't even a day's worth. Like it was like 6. No, not even. It was hours, 3 hours, 4 hours.
They were just maybe. Like, we know what happened. Let's go. Okay. So, so then what obviously guilty of what? And then how long does the sentencing end up being?
Yeah. So the original charges, there was a few different ones, but one of, a couple of the bigger ones was attempted murder was on there in the beginning, along with, it was assault, but it was like a specific, God, I should have reread I used to write a lot about it when it was all, when I was recovering and everything and take notes and stuff. And I should have refreshed my brain on all that stuff.
It's okay. The specific charge doesn't matter, but the sentencing does. How
there was a charge. Sorry to catch up. There was a charge that held the same exact consequences. What's the word I'm looking for? Jesus, my brain's going crazy.
Some exact length of the sentence.
Yeah.
Term. Yeah.
Thank you. It held at the same exact time. So basically, it was easier to prove that
right.
type than it would have been to prove with beyond a reason of doubt that
he was trying to kill you.
He was for sure trying to kill me.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that one did get dropped towards the end, but he did end up getting 3 other ones, and one of them was on the same level in Arkansas as attempted murder. So, basically, going back to just the end of court, essentially the verdict. He gets found guilty on all those counts, and then the next day is going to be sentencing, right? So after the guilty verdict, it honestly it was life changed, instant. And it's crazy because it's something you just brought up. I knew what happened, and everyone knew what happened. Everyone in that courtroom, including the family, knew what happened. But them doing, guilty, and judge hitting the gavel, it was life changing. It took all the weight completely off my shoulders. At least what it felt like. And
I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
And we go the next, we all go out to dinner that night in Fayetteville with the family, and it was one of the first times in, it felt, what was 2 years, where I just kind of felt like I could just hang out, enjoy my life, and not have that constant thought on my mind.
Wow.
Wondering what's going to happen.
Wow.
And
wow, dude. Yeah, Jesus.
What and at that point, I'm still, trying to accept how I look and,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
feel and the things that I'm dealing with, you know, physically and, you know, emotionally, just from the experience in general. But
Mm-hmm.
we go to dinner, we do that, we go to the sentencing the next day. Now I'm set to go up one more time to do like a
A victim statement.
exactly talk to the jury, give them my last
Mm-hmm.
little, you know, bit to really let them know this guy needs to go away for a while. Talk about all the hardships and whatnot. So before court was about to start, I was thinking about it all day, and I brought it up to my parents, and I was just not. I didn't feel. I didn't feel like it was necessary anymore. Like
Yeah.
I didn't. I didn't think it was needed. I felt like, hey, I'm just with my family now, and I got, I think, what I needed, and this is just going to play out the way that it's
Yeah.
meant to play out from what they've heard. I'm not going to. And the prosecutor, I went to her and told her, and she was like, hey, you know, like I'm not. I think I don't remember her exact words, but she was kind of shocked in a
Mm.
sense, but like in a way of like you know, I've never had someone, you know, somebody do that or victim do that in these types of circumstances. But if that's what you want to do, then you know we totally support it. So I did that. I'm sitting there with my family when the sentence gets read, and it was he ends up getting 25 years and 18 before a chance at parole.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Um,
years.
yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, I'll get back to that. I just thought of something. In their closing statements, theirs was basically all like, don't put him away for life. That's
Mm.
like all
Oh, wow. Okay.
they
Yeah.
just hit on, please don't put him away for life. Because that was part of
So they already
that. That was,
knew. They already knew he was going to fucking jail. It was
yeah,
open and shut, even according to the defense. Okay. So,
yeah.
and how does
And
that?
life was on the table technically
Right. 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 Right.
this
Right.
charge, but no one ever expected that, right? So to
Yeah.
the point where when their when his lawyers came out and said don't give him life, you know, it like I thought it hit me a little bit and was like, holy, like that's even possible, you know,
Right.
like
Right. Right.
that even, and that's when for a while I was like, this guy needs to be fucking executed, like
Yeah.
being so angry from how I felt for like a year, and then after the verdict, just thinking like, holy shit, if he goes away for life, I don't even know how I'm going to feel about that, like to a degree, right?
And so, how did you feel about 18 to parole, 25 to life?
Um, I was, you know, I thought it was, you know, it was what it was. I wasn't upset with it. I wasn't,
So you thought it was appropriate then? That's the
yeah, I do.
appropriate. Yeah.
I think it was appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think like if, you know, I think his daughter, one was 2, one was 3, if they, you know, the fact that you're not going to see them again outside of a jail cell until they're in their early 20s, like if that's not enough to make you want to live the rest of your life a decent person, then I don't know what would.
Mm.
Uh, and I think that would probably be the hardest thing about the whole situation for him if he's got any bit of, you know,
Yeah.
human
Yeah.
going on in it. So yeah, I mean, I felt like that was appropriate, and then this part, you know, it's always been, you know, I might lose some people on this part, but I can't really, you know, explain it to uh, like fully still. But at that moment, he got the 25. You know, I'm sitting there with my, you know, parents, my sisters, and I just had this kind of feeling. You know, I can't explain it any other way, but just this kind of feeling come up, and that I and got this thought and feeling, and he turned and looked at me, the guy who did it, you know, and we made eye contact, and before I knew it, like I was just like, I told him I forgive you.
Whoa, dude. Whoa.
Yeah,
And it just kind of came out of you.
yeah, yeah,
You didn't. You
and that's
hadn't.
why I kind of. What's that?
You hadn't like thought about that before. It just came
Not
out of
until I
you.
heard it. Yeah, not until the sentence was said, and then it just happened, and he looked at me, and I told him I forgive you. And he kind of made this face like, and I said it again. And then he just starts bursting with tears. The guy hadn't showed any emotion once the whole time.
Wow, dude, that is incredibly powerful.
Sorry.
No, I mean, yeah. What can you even say to that? That is beyond words, or that is truly something, man. That there's so much going on there. The fact that it happened at all is very interesting. When you think about it, from having already happened, looking back on it, you can kind of logically put the pieces together that you being the person that you are, forgiveness might have sort of welled up inside you without you realizing it, and it was ready to be given as long as the punishment was fit the crime. And then once that happened, it coming out of you even makes sense. But the fact that you're saying that would have that effect on him, I don't even know if I've even heard of anything like that. That's really unbelievable in a number of ways. How do you feel about that happened? Did that give you that specific thing? Does that make it a little easier to move forward from? Does it not really have that much of an effect? Or how do you feel about that looking back on it?
Yeah. Well, I guess I should explain this first, but that's why I brought up a little bit ago as far as how mad I was and what I felt should have happened to him for that like first year of just thinking the worst thing should happen to this guy for what he did to me. And that was that was just a lot of anger. And it got to a point in the recovery process where all I wanted, and all I prayed for was to not be angry. I just didn't want to be angry. And it was, just making my life worse. And it already was just being angry all the time, to the point where I'm affecting, relationships and family, because I'm just a dick about life, which they understood because they knew what I went through. But I've never was that guy. I spent 25 years of really, good, happy life with a family that always loved and supported me. And I just wasn't an angry dude. So that was what I needed, and looking back now, it's like, even if he got what he got, and that moment didn't happen, I don't think the anger would have, gone all the way down to where it is. I mean, to the point, I never lost another night of sleep because of being angry about that.
Wow.
So I think it had a huge part, because without me even knowing, I think that's what was actually gonna, be the answer to not being angry. I mean, as simple as it is, it's like, you forgive people and then that's how you fix it. But I mean, there's people in my life to this day that I'm not going to forgive because of things that they did.
Yeah.
But that, one would look at and say the worst thing that any other human's ever done to me. The so deep that, like, I think there really was only, so many cures. And, one of them was, continue to get more bottles of prescriptions and, just numb it. Or, I guess that was the answer, at least for me. It's probably different for everyone.
That's sometimes our bodies know things. I don't mean this in any woo-woo way. I just mean, like, sometimes our bodies get to things that we need to do before our brains do. And it sounds like something like that might have happened with you, where, like, your body was so demanding of this sort of weight to be lifted off of you that it just, like, made it come out of you almost, or something, and it obviously did the trick. I mean, whatever the fuck made you do that, you're feeling that, it wells up, it spits out of your mouth, and suddenly you said it, and then you repeat it. It's like, that's powerful shit, man. And the fact that you came away from that not ever losing another night of sleep, as you put it, from anger, from the anger that had been rightfully been built up in you for whatever the fuck happened to you. The senselessness of it, the randomness of it. It's like, there's so many reasons and ways to be angry about that. But the fact that you almost just like vanquished it in a moment by saying that is, I don't know. I don't even think I need to fucking say anything. It's like, it's self-explanatory how powerful that is, you know? It makes the story, which is already a good story, it makes it sort of like, I don't know, something everybody should listen to, you know? Thanks for telling the story. This is incredible.
Yeah. One other, I guess, additional there is we had like one more day of hanging out before we were going to fly back.
Yeah.
After the sentencing that day. So we decided we were going to go out to Dixon Street, and I was going to walk my family around, kind of show them all the places I went into. And, you know, we actually went and had lunch at the restaurant where the prosecutor's family owned, where I was found, you know. So, but then we walked the street and went into a couple places. There was one bar that I spent a good little chunk of time at, and they had a live band going on this patio area outside. And my oldest sister, she's really into music and stuff growing up. A lot of the music I listened to as a kid was all influenced by her. And I wanted to show her this stage and stuff where these guys are playing. So I have her come with me. The rest of my family standing outside the patio area on the other side of the fence. And her and I walk in, and we start walking up to the stage, and there's tables where people can sit and, you know, eat and drink, watch the show. Well, that's what I was doing that night, sitting at this table. So we start walking up to that table. Sitting at that table is the two defense attorneys from the case.
Whoa.
No joke.
How random.
And a part that I just left out, sorry, shouldn't have. While we were at that lunch earlier, I was talking with my dad about like just how I felt and how amazed it was, or how amazed I was about it. And I told him, hey, if I got any more resentment at all, even the slightest, you know, it's those damn defense attorneys who made that shit.
Yeah.
And hour and a half later, me and my sister walk in, and there they are, sitting in the same table I was sitting in. And they recognize me, and they're like, hey, you know, come here. And then I walk over, and me and my sister sit down, and they're just like, we are so sorry, you know, like about what happened to you and what you've been through this last week. And, you know, just, you know, I sat down and got to see like all the human in those. I'm not saying it's a job I would ever do or want, you know, want anybody that I love to do.
Right.
It was wild to where even that little tiny fraction of resentment I had towards those guys and about that town, you know, that kind of just dissipated along with a 45-minute conversation with those guys. My whole family came in, we talked for a little bit, and that was kind of the end of it as far as the whole trip went. So
fucking A, man. I mean, this story is wild. Obviously I knew it would be fascinating and all those things that you want when you're going through stories to invite people for on the show. But man, that is some powerful shit, man. I know you haven't like shared this story beyond people very close to you, and I appreciate you choosing this platform to share it on. This is incredible, man. I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me, man.
Of course, dude. And you seem like you're doing really well, and I'm really happy for that too. You know, you deserve it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, dude.
Look.